Welcome back, everybody, to the Sellbetter Daily Sales Show, where we bring you daily sales advice to help you sell better. If you're joining us live, keep your eyes on the chat. We've got great stuff coming your way in the chat, great takeaways. And if you're tuning into the podcast, it's a joy to come into your ears and learn and grow with you. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we're here to talk about all things cold calling, and this man is quite gifted in a lot of different ways, right? Like, you might feel like you've got a grasp on cold calling because you're funny and you're electric. This dude is professional. Shara Davoodi from Nooks. What is going on, my man? Welcome back.
What is up? What is up, man? I need you on every single one of my calls. Look at that intro. Excited to be here for round two.
I want to give a big shout out to our longtime partners over at Zoom Info. We do it big and we love working with you guys. And our friends over at Nooks have something great for you today. Coach, collaborate, and win together in your own virtual sales room. Nooks drives great conversations in real time and everybody gets elevated together. Nooks is definitely one of a kind. Check it out. That's something that you guys can start doing to have better cold calls right away. Shara, one of the things that you said here when we kicked it off was openers and ending calls is something that reps tend to struggle with, right? But when they're talking about opening a call, you have a very specific way that you deliver this language. Talk to me about your opener. Let's give it to them the way that you say it so they can hear it, and then we'll break it in.
Yeah, so ring, ring. I pick up, or they pick up, and I go, hey, this is Shara Davoodi with Nooks. Good afternoon. Prospect's name and pause. All right. A key component here is I just say what I know every single time, and I'm ready no matter who picks up. Specifically, with Nooks, we're using a dialer, so we're calling multiple people at the same time, or things are moving fairly quickly. But I have something that's my go-to professional tone. Hey, it's Shara Davoodi with Nooks. Good afternoon or good morning, and then the prospect's name. So that's my little change there for people. Yeah.
Right out of the gate, I'll tell you why this is different. I think we have a tendency to want to ask a question or even say something with an upward inflection when we do an opener. But when you do this is Shara Davoodi with Nooks. Good morning. And so, do you often get good morning or good afternoon back and then there's a pause, or do they continue the conversation naturally with something like, what can I do for you? Which is kind of like a reverse because they're asking you a question now.
Yeah, no, look, like my name alone is pretty weird, right? People are like Charles, Shara, like Sarah. Yeah, exactly. And that's the segue to the next portion of, wait, who's this? And then that's when I really jump in and kind of use my permission-based opener, but I'm sure we'll get to that here in a sec. Yeah.
So there is Cassia. Thank you very much. Cassia Newman. I think I'm saying your name correctly. If I'm not, please correct me. But she says, do you ask for permission? So it looks like this is your original opener that you open with. They respond to you. Is then the right time to put in that permission-based, hey, do you have a second before your next meeting? That's how I do it. I have this like downward inflection. I'll tell you more about that in a second.
Yeah, I think and I've learned, by the way, everything that I'm sharing today, I'm not the guru. I've learned through trial and error, people who are better than me, and I just picked up certain things. My go-to sentence here, though, is, hey, someone says, who's this? I say, I know I'm catching you cold. Can I level with you real quick and you can let me know if it's worth a longer conversation? Something like that. Can I level with you? I've learned this to be a real game changer in the sense of just getting an opportunity to talk about why I'm calling. Yeah.
I think there's a serious tone to that too. It's a lot less playful than what we typically want to aim for, I think, on the show. We've had a lot of cold callers come on and there's a playful nature to them. Sarah Plowman is one of my favorite cold callers out there in the game right now. If you're not following Sarah Plowman, go find her right now. We'll drop her link in the chat. But when you look at her, she does this thing on Fridays where she's like, you're going to hate me. This is a Friday cold call. That's a playful opener. Y'all, Shara is very professional. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. Very straightforward, very direct, because he wants those people to be that way with him. And that's why this works for him. Find your personality. Every day it might be a little bit different, but you can adjust accordingly. My opener has a downward inflection. Chet Holmes, the ultimate sales machine. Hey, thanks for taking the call. Do you have a second before your next meeting? I mean business with that tone. There's a little bit of, yes, this might be important, right? That works for me. It's my tone that earns me that extra couple of seconds. Great job on the opener. We're going to talk more about the ending of these calls in just a bit, because I think that's a tough thing for a lot of us too. I'm a rambler personally. I have to admit it. I struggle to end a call sometimes because I feel like I should keep talking. I'm a salesperson. But you said that there are triggers that can help you recognize that now is the time for me to stop talking about X, Y, and Z and go for a meeting. Talk to me about the triggers.
Yeah, is in terms of like wrapping up the call, my two ways to wrap up, or just in general when I'm on the call, James. Sorry.
No, it's fine. So for me, the mental shift was stop talking when I get the interest
Ah,
because
yes,
I
yes,
don't need to be selling the product now. And
yes.
I always wanted to sell the product. I was told as a caller, you're in sales now, but
Yeah.
not really, not really. I'm not selling anything. I'm selling interest, I guess, and then the logistics behind the meeting. So there's a trigger there where I can stop talking about what we do and why we do it and just schedule the meeting. Talk to me about those.
Yeah, so I've always been taught to sell the meeting. I think that's what we're all trying to say here. And it's as soon as there's interest, you're talking a little bit about your product, you're talking about what you do, you get a couple questions. One of my favorite things, and I know we'll talk about this in a second, is like when to call. I love calling at the 15 minutes before the middle, so the 30-minute mark, and 15 minutes before the top of the hour. We'll talk a little bit more about that as it's coming up, and I'll tell you why that's important. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and talk to him, man. Why is that?
Yeah.
Why is that your favorite time to call? What does that benefit you? What does it benefit them?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I call out that like my calendar, right? Like I have a call coming up here, right? So right as I'm on the call, hey, I know we're both busy. It sounds like you're interested. Can we schedule some time Wednesday, 3 o'clock, right? So when you have that true conviction of holy crap, I actually do have a call coming up, it just sounds and it comes off a lot better. And honestly, you respect their calendar too by doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, these are the two endings that I think we could probably talk about here. And I like these because they go both ways. You can let them know that you have an upcoming call and that's your hard stop. And, there's a time limit on this call. But then at the same time, if you ask them in advance, you probably have a call. Remember, you said you had a call coming up. I want to make
Yep.
sure we get everything that we need to get done. You can move the conversation along a little bit faster. And I think that's quite helpful. So you guys should try this out once you get that permission to keep talking, like, hey, I want to make this quick because I know you have a call coming up. Or you can say, hey, I wasn't expecting you to answer. I was actually ready to leave you a voicemail, but since you're here, I have another call coming up. Do you have a minute? I have 1 minute. You might earn that 1 minute and they'll expect you to get it all out really fast. And isn't that kind of what you want? One of the things that you said was that you have opinions about the trends, and I liked your opinion.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the trends in cold calling. You are a social being. You see the stuff that we put out and the stuff that everybody's talking about cold calling.
Yeah.
Those trends, how do you view them?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of cool things out there. I'm the type of person that I try everything, but one thing I've realized, the professional language works best for me. I don't use words like bruh or riz or other slang or things that like whatever is new. I try to learn them. I get the meaning of it so I understand the context, but that's not just how I work. But yeah.
I'm curious, what is the slang word that you think you use too much? Let us know in the chat, or put a 1 in the chat if you don't want to give the word, but you have one, right? Identify yourself. I am terrible with man. I say man a lot. I say dude a lot. Yeah, bruh. If you say bruh on a call, you might struggle to keep that convo going. Look, we got some
Yeah.
good ones coming in, maybe. Oh, we got ones. Oh, nobody wants to cop to it. I get, hey, don't stress. Yeah, no doubt. Okay. Y'all,
That's a great question. Constantly saying, hey, that's a great question. Oh, that's a great question. I feel like can be a little bit not the best. Yeah.
the repetition of it, you mean? Like the constant, oh, good question. You know what else is, and I'll tell you all this right now. Since we're talking about cold callers, I'm a cold caller. We can talk about it all you like. Stop overusing people's names. This rubs me the wrong way immediately when I get a call and it's a great opener and I'm like, yeah, I got a minute. What can I do for you? And they're like, James, let me tell you something, James. When you see this, James, it's going to change your life, James. And I'm like, bro, I know my name. Like,
Yeah, no, that's another thing that it's like these trends, right? They're so good, but once everyone starts doing them, like I was the biggest Chris Voss guy. Would you be opposed? That's another thing that I've kind of gone away from at the end of the call. Hey, would you be opposed to meeting next week? I just say, can you meet next week? It's yes or no. If you've done enough value, you're not trying to trick them at the end. So that's just my take. Yeah.
there's something to be said about the tones that you're using when you say it, right? There's a
Yeah.
directness to it. I feel a monotone almost. So let me ask the question here. What is the tone that you feel best identifies you as a caller? I think this is very interesting. Shara,
Yeah.
obviously over time we get better as callers, completely off of everything that we've prepped to talk about here, but like, how did you
Sure.
get good at this, man? Did this just come naturally to you? You felt like this was good. You took some speech course and you were like, I'm a very good speaker, an orator. Like, I'd be a good cold caller.
How did I get good at cold calling? Is having kids and having patience. Let me tell you that. The patience and the grace for myself to get better. This is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, day one, when you start, you're not as good as you will be when you keep practicing and you get 1% better every day. I work for Nooks. We're a dialer. So I empathize with people who are calling all day and maybe only getting 1 to 2 connects a day. And,
Mm,
the at bats is what I'm trying to get at. When you have, and not to do a shameless plug here, but when you have a dialer or when you have the tech to have more conversations
yeah.
way faster, that kind of helps speed up that process. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously the number of connects makes an enormous difference. Some of this has to do with data quality. We're SDRs and we're paid to make calls and schedule meetings, but man, I spend way more time updating phone numbers, labeling somebody as not the decision maker, disqualifying
Yep.
a lead. Talk to me about that day-to-day monotony in your world, Shara. What does that look like? And then we'll share, look at some of these results as we're going. A lot of people think they're happy.
Data quality is a huge piece of this, right? To your point, there's plenty of tools. We have Nooks numbers, for example. We enrich the list. We try to help make that situation as easy as we can. But yeah, it looks like that's a big pain for everyone for sure. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of twos in there. And I'll tell you, when you, here's again, like special hacks that we go through all the time. We talk about them pretty consistently, but best hack when you find a phone number that's good, save it in your cell phone as a contact. The reason is because you're going to call this person a lot. You're going to leave a lot of numbers. You're going to leave a lot of messages. When they call you back, wouldn't you love to be able to answer the phone and be like, Shara, I have been calling you. It's great to hear from you. How are you today? And that is, oh, this person knows me, right? That's definitely a good hack. I've been doing that for years. Works for me a lot. What's your hack?
Yeah.
How do you get the most out of those connects? How do you get, you sit down, you make 100 calls and 50 of them are great numbers.
I feel so bad because I'm doing a lot of shameless plugs. But James, on Nooks, we have a hot number symbol that this person has. You've connected with them in the past,
Oh,
and
no.
also when you, yeah, no, it's awesome. We make the dialing like a breeze, and when you get connected with a prospect, we literally have every single previous call, every single email, all in the same dashboard, one single pane, so you guys can maximize when you do get connected.
Mm.
Again, if anyone's interested, I'm your guy to show you how that looks.
Hey,
Yeah,
watch out now.
yeah,
Watch out now.
yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's keep going. Okay, so you're a great cold caller because, and I think this is part and parcel to who you are as a seller, but I do feel like you go from, and most sellers have to go from, and look, a lot of you voted happy. How do you go from I'm coming in casual, be casual, right? That's what people say,
Yeah.
be casual. And
Yeah.
you had some fun thoughts around this casual conversation. When is it time to turn the casual off and turn the business on? We've talked about this with funny sellers as well. Tom Boston has a lot of insights here.
Yeah. I think look, this is probably towards, they've asked a couple of questions, you're getting towards the end, your time is coming up, right? You have a call coming up, and you simply say, my go-to line is, hey, can you envision a situation where business pain, whatever it is, let's say, hey, we're able to achieve 3 to 5x more conversations for you guys. Would you make this recommendation to your boss? And this typically comes after like someone has given you an objection of, I'm not the right person. Yeah, this is interesting, but I don't know. And that's where you kind of throw this in of, hey, I agree. I appreciate you sharing, but can you imagine a situation where you'd recommend, Nooks helping you guys have 3 to 5x more conversations to your leader, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I like the way that both of these are phrased because I feel like they're casual in their nature. And yet at the same time, they sort of force this person to decide whether or not they're going to be your big buzzword champion. Put a 3 in the chat if you've ever thought somebody was your champion and it turned out they were not your champion. Right? I feel like y'all better throw them 3. This is such a problem. If you ask these questions on a cold call, imagine how much more accountability you might have with that human that says, yeah, I could see myself putting this in front of Sarah or Wendy or Bill. Yeah, I definitely imagine a situation where we would switch. We've been complaining about insert competitor. You might get that kind of answer. And isn't that a valuable piece of information? Shara, how'd you stumble upon these? Was this just like trial and error and these just landed for you? Did they come to you naturally? Did you learn them from somebody? And then we got a couple of questions I'd love to hit.
Yeah, shout out to Avi Mesh. If you guys are on LinkedIn, yeah, he's my go-to guy. I learned a lot from him. He actually did improv to improve his cold call,
Hey,
all this fun stuff. So unfortunately, I'm more of like the reader. But I could totally see how improv helps because you got to think on your feet, right? On a cold call. So yeah.
no doubt. We just had Chris Bogue on the show recently, last Friday, I believe, and we talked about improv and how much it's impacted him as a video creator, as a caller, as somebody that's in meetings all the time and kind of rolling with it. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I think he has that I always question about myself is like, and let me ask you, and let's ask the audience, right? Yes or no? Are you a funny person? Do you find yourself humorous? It's a loaded question because a lot of people are gonna be like, I know you and you're not funny. Shara, you said you think that you're a funny person, but you haven't quite nailed that in your delivery in the opener. And I just want to talk about what that journey's been like for you, finding you're funny.
Man, my wife, if you ask my wife, she'll be like, "Oh hell no, you're not funny." I feel like I'm definitely a dad joke guy now. But honestly, I haven't found that like the sexy opener that gets a joke or people, really
Yeah.
chuckle. I think that's why I lean more a little bit more towards that like professional, my go-to opener. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like we lean on professional because we feel like the funny that we think is funny is not going to be funny for somebody else. But one of the things that I have found to be interesting is if I engage in a funny way on social and then I call, technically I guess you could call it a warmer call because I've engaged, they liked my content, my comment, and then
Yeah.
I've called. But I can be like, hey, I got a great laugh out of your post, or I hope you thought that was funny. And I can tune into their funny in that way. And man, that has worked really well for me if I can get that human on the phone after the engagement takes place. Okay,
Yep.
let's get a couple of questions here. Anonymous, thank you, Anonymous. They would like you to repeat the permission-based opener. Let me get a yes in the chat if you'd like to hear it one more time. There we go. We got a bunch of yeses coming in. Okay, the permission-based opener that you use. Let's go back to the opener that you have because I want people to see it, use it, make it their own. That's really important. This is a learning experience for everybody in the room. There
Yeah.
we go. Okay, start from the beginning. You're going to call me. Here we go.
All right, ring.
Hello.
Hey James, this is Shara Davoodi with Nooks. Good morning.
Good morning.
James, I know I caught you cold. Could I level with you real quick and you can let me know if this is worth a longer conversation?
Yeah, I've got about 3 minutes before I got to hop into my morning meeting. What's up? What'd you say your name was?
Yeah, then there you go. You kind of like jump in and kind of keep going. But the key
Yeah.
word there is, and I know it's not on that sheet, it's on the at the end where I show you kind of the breakdown for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
But
We're going
it's
to give everybody a script at the end so you can start using this stuff.
but it's the tonality of I know I caught you cold. Could I level with you real quick and you could let me know if it's worth the longer chat? That I've heard time and time again on millions of calls. And for more context, I've worked at the two top dialers and I've probably some of the best cold callers out there. And this has been tried and it's true. Give it a go, guys. Yeah.
The data often doesn't lie. And when you have something that works for you that you've done over and over again, you really want to stick with it until it becomes commonplace. Kasia, thank you for pointing out my aggressive nature. I do a lot of role play with cold calling, and I love to put cold callers in this position of, oh, snap, is this going to be a tough call? Because they think on their feet really well. Shara, of course, is a professional, so I knew I could do it. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, does Nooks integrate with Outreach? I think it does, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of our tightest integrations. Yep.
Nice. Ryan, there's your answer for that one. I appreciate the question. Mike says, what's your response when people say, send me an email? I think this is one of the most common responses. So what's your response when you get that response?
Yeah. I generally don't want to send an email. I'd kind of push back, right? And happy to do, James. I'm curious, what exactly are you trying to see in that email? Like that's just a brush off, and or just maybe even call out James. I'm on these calls all the time. What's likely going to happen is I'm going to send you an email. You're not going to reply. Is this even relevant for you? Trying to get a pushback of just an answer on that call. Yes, no, on to the next one. I tend not to send emails actually when they do give me that. Yeah. What do you
So
guys think?
I like the question of what would you like in that email. I've always found that to be effective. My problem is that I think I've heard that since 2015, and a lot of people respond in that way. And as a person selling into leadership, I think a lot of leaders get a lot of calls, a lot of emails. They see a lot of the same language over and
Yep.
over. So when people say send me an email, I've been using, I think it's Ronen Passar, who's one of the best cold callers out there in the game for tonality right now. And he's been saying, I could send you an email, but I hear that a lot. And most of the time when I send that email, it goes unanswered. So
There you go.
tell me this, are you not interested in having the conversation, or is there a better time to actually talk and have this conversation? Because I don't want to just bombard you with emails. People appreciate the fact that that they ignore spam.
Yeah, and how you just said that, like the tone and the downward inflection and how calm you are, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were to say that to me, I would right then tell you, hey man, don't even send the email or whatever the case is, right?
I wouldn't want
Yeah.
to send you an email that I knew you were
Yeah.
going to not respond to or ignore. What's the difference? But
Nope.
inevitably, we get shut down. This is far and away the most common thing. Like cold calling is a game of no's way before it's a game of yes. When that happens, what's your immediate thought?
As far as getting no's,
Yeah, you're in a virtual room with other people, and sometimes we just can't win. We roll a goose egg. If you've never rolled a goose egg
yeah,
and you're a cold caller, you're not making the effort.
I got you.
We all roll goose eggs, man.
So yeah, I mean, we're in sales, it goes up and down. I think what I've learned, honestly, is to celebrate the small wins. And I know we hear that a lot, but what I'm trying to say is you call someone, yeah, obviously the end goal is for us to book a meeting, but every interaction can't be a meeting, right? Let's be real. So when you validate the person's phone number, whether you got connected at a time, you know the CRM that they're using, whatever information, that's a golden nugget that you could later use to then follow up or just ask a little bit more about the org, how to attack the org next time when you're calling someone else, what's important to them. I've really learned to try to take a win out of every single interaction. Yeah.
That's a great tip there. And I think it's a good mentality coming into being a cold caller too. I'm curious, put a number in the chat. How many years have you been cold calling? Some people are, I've been doing this for less than a year. Some people have been a 20-year veteran. I've seen a lot of cold callers that have been doing this for, yeah, there you go. There's a 20-year right there, 20, another 20. I see a lot of twos, a lot of ones, a lot of 15s and sixes. Look at these span right here. We got a lot of great callers in the room. Thank you for joining us. All right, so since you said that, let's ask the audience here. And sometimes we get some great stuff in the chat from this. But other than a meeting, what else is a win for you? I think that's a really interesting question and a good way to look at our cold calling. While we're talking about that, I would love for you to tell me the story of this VP that asked you to put them on your do not call list. And they weren't too happy. But that turned around oddly in a weird way. Talk to everybody about how we can celebrate these types of wins in a different way.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that. Thanks for the reminder. I regular cold called someone, permission-based opener, did everything, and this guy was just not having it, right? We all have those days. It wasn't the best day. Cussing me out on the phone. He just put me on the do not call list and don't call me again, right? And I very calmly on the other side, didn't take it personal. I was like, no problem, sir. Have a great rest of your day. Boom, did that. And then out of nowhere, I get a LinkedIn request, and it's this person that I had just called. He shot me a message. He's, thank you for respecting, my wishes at the time. I'll take a look, and if it's anything interesting, I will reach out. Now, I didn't book a meeting from it, but I felt like that was a win, right? Just doing what the prospect's actually asking you to do can lead to having a good interaction. If he's ever in the market again, I can almost guarantee you he'll be reaching out to me. Yeah.
I try so hard to leave people floating, right? I want them to come find me on LinkedIn. Sometimes I'm looking for this phrase at the end of the call where they're like, this was fun. Thanks for the call. I know that I won the day if I can hear that at least once. And, I like to tell people, you want them to hear you smile. If they can hear that, I guarantee they're having a fun time talking to you. You're having a fun time talking to them. And that is the best kind of relationship that we can start off with. All right, we've got some other things to think about here, but your tip, your number one tip was that find something in every interaction, right? That's the thing that people need to be coming away with. Are you guys ready to see this script? We're going to have Shara run through it for you so that you guys can see it. And then we're going to answer questions. So be sure to get your questions in. And we're going to drop this link in the chat for you as well, where you can go make a copy of this script for yourself and make it your own. Start making it so that it feels more like yourself. Shara, let's bring this up. Just break this down for everybody as we drop that link in the chat so everybody can go get their copy.
Yeah, sure thing. The first part we kind of touched on already and how you open. Mine is pretty basic, but it's the tone, right? Hey,
Yeah.
Jim, this is Shara Davoodi from Nooks. Pause. Good morning. That's the differentiation there. My permission-based opener generally follows who's this. There's two ways of saying that. I know I caught you cold. Can I level with you real quick and you can let me know if it's worth a longer chat? Or the other version there. No, I caught you cold. Could I level with you to explain why I called you specifically? It just depends on how you're using it. And then I think that we talked about this already. Can you envision a situation where you might recommend it to your boss? This is straight from Avi. Totally get it. Let me ask you, if you found about a product that could help you, and then there's three ways of taking it, whether you want to achieve positive results, prevent negative results, or avoid a risk, right? Can you envision that situation? And just kind of, again, what we talked about, selling the meeting. As soon as there's interest, don't talk too much. Don't ask more questions. You have enough there, sizzle, if you will, to book the next steps and book the meeting. So that's kind of my script.
I love it right there. Y'all, go
Yeah.
make a copy of this. Look at how it's working for him. Make it your own. That's the thing to do right here. We got some great questions, and I want you guys to keep the questions going because we do have some time here. This one comes from Alicia. I think it's Mole, but if it's Mole, let me know if I'm saying it right. I pride myself on the names thing. As a caller, you got to get it right. Any tips on getting to decision makers without buying Zoom info? The reason is because we call businesses and get a lot of front desk people, and there are only two people in my company. So I guess you're saying two people at your company that are actually doing the calls. So how do you get to the decision makers if you're kind of going uphill with no tools?
Yeah, so it sounds like they're getting a lot of gatekeepers, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the front runner. Yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask, and I want to throw that out there regarding gatekeepers because we are lucky and we have a lot of direct numbers, direct dials. But being persistent, I say, but I'm sure other people have better when it comes to gatekeepers. So I don't want to throw anything out there. Yeah.
So I'm going to give you, Alicia, I'll give you my best gatekeeper strategy. This is the strategy that I've been using since I heard about it. Again, it's Chet Holmes, the ultimate sales machine. Strong recommendation. You check that out. Super dope. You want their name. So let's say I'm calling and I need to talk to Wendy, and I call and I get the receptionist or the gatekeeper, the person that is managing the phones for Wendy. They're like, "Thank you for calling place." And I say, "Can I speak with Wendy, please?" Downward inflection. And they're like, instinct is to say, "I can put you through to their voicemail." Most sellers would say, "Sure, go ahead and put me through to their voicemail." Sometimes I do that. But the first time, I don't allow it. I say, "Actually, what's your name?" And then they stop. Pattern interrupt. They're like, "My name is Jonathan." "Hey, Jonathan, is Wendy out of the office or is she unavailable today? What's the status there?" And they go, "Oh, no, I just put people through to the voicemail." And you go, "Jonathan, do you work for Wendy? Or do you work for like the main desk and there's like lots of people?" What you're doing is you're stopping this pattern of, "I'll put you through to the voicemail," and it just goes into the void. And you say, "Jonathan, I'd love it if you wrote this down. Voicemails tend to go unanswered. If you write it down, I think I might get a call back." So they do, they write it down. The next day when you call, somebody answers. You say, "Is this Jonathan?" If the answer is no, you say, "I called and spoke with Jonathan yesterday. What's your name?" This goes on and on. And eventually you get to know all the gatekeepers. I don't care how many times those gatekeepers walk into Wendy's office and put my name and information and phone number down on her desk. Eventually they're going to be like, "You need to call this person." They seem very kind. They call a lot. Wendy, call James back, please. Right? This makes you different. I hope that helps, Alicia. It works. It's a longer play, but gatekeepers are designed, their job is to guard their person's time, and you can win with a little bit of consistency there. Let me know what you think about that in the chat. Shara, you're an expert. What do you think about that strategy?
No, I love it. I love it. And look, I tend not to do great with gatekeepers. Maybe it's my tone, maybe it's how I am. I'm just trying to like talk to the person. I need to do a better job. But we're lucky. We leverage Apollo, we leverage Zoom Info, the Tagma. Like we have the data, but it's not a anything that no one knows here. The more direct dials they have, the mobile numbers you have, the better it is today. I
Right.
think, yeah. Yeah.
And the more gatekeepers you can talk to at the same prospect's company, the more times you can say things like, "Hey, what can you tell me about Wendy? Would I be better off to send chocolates or write a letter? Is there
Yeah.
something that you've seen work in the past? These people want to help you if you make it that way." Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like with gatekeepers, you really have to win them over. Obviously, if you can go in person, that's a dream come true. But like next level, it's sometimes it's not a call is not enough, right? Like you really have to put in work, especially at a big company like what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, most bigger companies, I think there's a lot of stakeholders in the game to begin with. I mean, you're not going to break through, you're not going to. So, first of all, let's talk about gatekeepers as a whole because they are not just obstacles to be overcame. They're human beings just like you and
Yes.
me. When you do what I've suggested, I think it breaks that barrier down and they don't feel like lesser humans. And that in
Yes.
itself is beneficial for them. Let's get this one in from Mike here. So, I hope that helps. You can name drop one of their colleagues that you spoke with? Jeffrey, I appreciate that, but I always find that there's an ethical boundary here because some people will make that stuff up. And I would caution everyone in the room not to make things up in your calls. This one comes from Mike Flynn, Shara. He says, "How much do you
Yeah.
try to qualify budget on a cold call? Is it worth it?
Mm.
Or is it better to have that conversation as an intro meeting and worry about budget later?" This is a great question. How fast do we go for that budget combo?
I love this question. Like everything in me wants to say yes, talk about budget on the cold call, but I don't. I have to be honest. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to because look, like we've all known budget isn't there. You can create budget if the problem is big enough that you're solving for. In most cases, obviously, if there is absolutely no more budget, you talk about it later time, whenever the year, fiscal year, whatever happens. But typically speaking, I will talk about budget on the actual live demo once they're there and I'm showing them the platform. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff, so Mike, I think I almost said Jeffrey because we're in the chat here. Mike, I think that if they bring up budget or something related to budget, it kind of opens the door for you. Like sometimes that's a quick and early objection you might get. You might have your opener ready where you're like, "Hi, this is Shara Davoodi and I'm calling from Nooks," and they already know who you are. And they might say, "We use," and they throw out that competitor. We don't have budget to switch. And you say something like, "It sounds like you might be switching, but budget is not available yet. Can you tell me more about that?" They opened
Yeah.
that door to the budget conversation. And this works later in the funnel too, when they say, "Oh, that's way out of budget there." And you could say, "Oh, it sounds like you might have already talked about budget. What'd you guys figure out?" And now they've opened the can of worms that everyone was trying to avoid.
Yeah.
That's a good tactic. Great question from Mike there. Shout out Anonymous one more time. I always appreciate the anonymous questions. Do you have an opener for a receptionist that answers when you're trying to call a prospect? I used mine. When you do get a gatekeeper, Shara, do you go for immediate to the voicemail? What's your opener for them?
Yeah, honestly, I don't call gatekeepers.
Yeah.
I need to do a better job here. So I think your example was perfect. I just do mobiles, directs.
Gotcha. Any alternatives to the "can I level with you" that you've found success with? Yeah, Kyle, I think the reason you might ask that is that some people are calling folks where that might be a little too casual of language. What do you say about that? You're the most professional caller I've heard in a while, buddy. So what do you got for that?
God, yeah. I mean, what else could you say would level with you? I'm curious. What would anyone say here? Honestly, it's just more of maybe taking that out 100% completely. And do you have time? I'm calling you specifically. Do you have a moment for me to say why I was calling you specifically? Something like that. But level with you just seems, on my part, puts us at equal footing, if you will, when I'm
Yeah.
calling someone. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some kind of pattern interrupt that I might suggest. And lately, because I've been working with marketers, I'm finding that budgets are allocated way in advance. So I've had some luck with opening up on the cold call and being like, "Hey, I know I'm calling you cold, but I also know that in Q4, possibly late Q3, you're going to start talking about Q1 of 2025. And I think we should be a part of that conversation." And that's me saying, "I don't want the conversation right now. I want it in the future when the time is right." And I think people appreciate that. I've scheduled 2 or 3 calls this week alone using that strategy. Try that out if you're working with bigger enterprises or companies that tend to departments that tend to allocate budgets in advance. I love that. For the level with you one, I think there's definitely some room for alternatives that you can A/B test. You want to try new things all the time. Let's talk about trying new things. What is your strategy when you want to step outside your comfort zone, Shara? Is that something you have a process for when you want to try a new opener or try a new technique in your cold calls?
I I try not to be reactive with this, but if I notice where I've had a month where, okay, like I keep things are not moving along, I'll kind of take a look and use our call library, listen to the calls that I've made. I tend to be a little more reactive on this. And what I mean by this is you notice, oh, my connect rate has dropped significantly, or I'm not booking as many meetings as I was. So my advice would be don't wait until it's too late. Try to do it weekly or take a look at it. And then when it comes to trying new things, man, I've tried anything under the sun. Probably the least successful was the sending 2 cents to people on Venmo. And
Oh,
like but I want to say that I tried it. I tried 100 people, 50 A/B tests different times, and there's zero reply. So don't save your $2 there. Yeah.
save your Venmo and transactions. Don't use them for that. I think that's
Yeah.
great. But for me, I think when I'm trying something different, or if I'm trying to figure out if this works for me, I'm really trying to be like intentional with the people that I'm calling, because I want it to be trusted on the right individuals. But I also say that you got to try it enough times to be able to say it doesn't work. I've heard a lot of newer callers that are stepping outside of a script that they've been using to onboard for 4 months, and then they like completely train wreck and they go the wrong way. And it's just because they try something 2 or 3 times and they say, oh, it doesn't work. Perfect
Yeah.
it. Try it enough times where you've got it down, and then look at the data, right? But don't try it for the first time in the real time, never having tried it before and only tried a couple times and then say it doesn't work. I feel like it's too soon to make that call. If you had to talk about a skill that you developed as a cold caller, that was the one that really changed things for you, which skill was it that stands out in your mind?
Slowing down my mind. Like maybe it was like the first, you're nervous, like the first, you're not hearing what the other person's saying. I'm already thinking of how to reply when the person says something, but just slow down, take a breath. I mentioned Avi because during my onboarding he was like the person that I was really trying to emulate.
Yeah.
When I say slowing down, Mamba mentality as well, I see you. When I say slowing down, I mean after he would say good morning, or after he would say, hey, this is Shara Davoodi with Nooks. Good morning, Jim. That you almost feel uncomfortable listening to the call, right? But it was just like, oh, wait, who? And so that slowing down, even when they give you an objection, take a second to breathe, really understand what they're saying, and then answer. It's okay. Yeah.
I think this is something I've struggled with most of my life. My brain moves very quickly as well. Slowing down is hard for me. I'm often
Yep.
told I'm going too quickly, slow down. And I think it always helps me when I do. So I appreciate that advice. It's something I hear often. And it's hard for us to slow down when we're fast paced in our minds. And let's be frank, cold calling is a game of go, go, go. What are we told most often? Make more calls.
No.
Hey, that's dial more numbers, right? That's the thing that we are told most often. All right, cool. Hey, let us know in the chat, what is your go-to question that is on your mind now? We've got a few more minutes here. I'm happy to answer anything you've got over the next couple of minutes. We're going to drop Shara's link one more time in the chat so you can make a copy of that script. And then we're also going to drop his LinkedIn in the chat so that you guys can go and connect with him. Oh, okay. This is Andrew. He's not interested. How do you combat that objection? First time you call, you're like, this is Shara Davoodi. Hey, man, I'm not interested. They don't even know why you're calling, who you are. What do you say when they're not interested in you?
Wait, I just want to call out. I thought he said he was not interested in that thing in my LinkedIn. So thank you, Andrew, for not hurting my feelings. But no, look, I think I just kind of try to empathize and hear him. Like my answer is, hey, no worries. Appreciate the heads up. Let me ask you, if I call back in the future and try to share how we're helping companies 3 to 5x conversations, what should I open with to earn a few more minutes of your time next time? Something like that. That's kind of a little bit more scripty there, but that's kind of what I generally try to say is just next time when I call you, what would make you interested, right? That's what I'm trying to peak there. Yeah.
That is not bad at all. I can appreciate that. I want to thank you, man, for coming out, sharing your wisdom, running through a quick role play with me that was completely unscripted.
It's all good, man. That was fun. Thank you guys. Awesome questions today. I appreciate you guys putting me on the spot. That was fun.
Man, we got the best audience in the world.
Yeah.
They come in, they ask relevant questions, they contribute to the conversation, and that's why this show is what it is. Follow us on social, sellbetter.xyz. Connect with me personally at Say What Sales, and we will see you next time with another stellar guest to help you sell better. Go get them, everybody. We're rooting for you.